All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. And today is March 31st, Monday, March 31st, 2025, Missile Monday. And I have this article from War on the Rocks, and it says Euro deterrent, a vision for an Anglo-French nuclear force. So I'm just going to go into this article and bring out a few scriptures. Lord willing, this lesson is edifying and straight to the point. And it says, recently published signal discussions in which senior Trump administration officials admit they hate bailing out America's pathetic European allies have cast fresh doubt on the U.S. commitment to defending Europe. Even before these revelations, what Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk described as a profound change of sick American geopolitics had already provoked reappraisals across Europe of the future of nuclear deterrence on the continent, Slovakia. In this new reality, Washington's European allies are faced with three options: continue to rely on what they consider a weakened security guarantee backed by U.S. extended nuclear deterrence, pursue further nuclear proliferation, or develop an independent deterrent comprising the nuclear forces of France and the United Kingdom. Each of these options are less desirable than U.S. extended deterrence before January 20th, 2025. The question, however, is how the European NATO members can best react to safeguard their collective defense, given the feasible alternatives today. Under current conditions, the transition to an Anglo-French Euro deterrent is the best option for Europe. And as you can clearly see, again, man, you have America's European allies looking, for deterrence elsewhere, because again, man, they're pretty much questioning if America's going to have their back, in the event of a war. Again, I mentioned it, at camp this past Saturday, because again, the first nation, or I'll say the first, ally country that I heard, pretty much question on if the United States would have their back was Japan, and that was sometime, last year. Japan wants to, develop their own, nuclear weapons, because they're questioning if America is going to have their back if war were to happen, which it is. And then, sometime last month, if not last month, in January, I think it may have been last month, Slovakia, but, you pretty much had Germany, looking, to France or the UK, if not both of those European nations, to, have their back, because, the United States, pretty much isn't trying to help them, So it just goes to show you, man, that, again, prophecy is being played out, that however exactly it happens, America's allies are going to turn on her, And again, this is just a foreshadowing of that, man, These different European nations that are allies with America pretty much, are looking to, get aid or nuclear aid, from other countries, or to, pretty much team up, because France and the UK are two of the 9 current nuclear armed nations, Let's read a little bit more. It says a shaky U.S. extended deterrent says the fundamental nature of the crisis afflicting U.S. extended nuclear deterrence to NATO is one of credibility. The U.S. commitment rests on Article 5 of the 1949 North Atlantic Treaty, which requires each ally to respond to an armed attack against any one of them with such actions, with such action as it deems necessary, including the use of armed force. The deterrent credibility of this commitment requires U.S. willingness to risk and ultimately wage nuclear war on behalf of allies located thousands of miles away. So again, man, that's pretty much the agreement, that they have or are supposed to have, that, if anything happens to one of these nations, then, they're going to respond. Ultimately it's going to, be an all-out nuclear war, which it is, but just like it says, which I may grab that scripture, the least of the flock shall draw them out, meaning, the small hats, that are over there in our land, they're going to be the ones to ultimately, get things cracking, that are going to, fully get World War III started. However they do it, we just have to wait and see, but we still have to keep our eyes on the land, because right now that ceasefire between them and, Ishmael, it's done, so they're still, bombing each other to hell and back. Continuing, it says deterrence. Theorist Thomas C. Schelling recognized that the U.S. commitment to defend the homeland was inherently credible, but the pledge to defend allies at great cost and risk requires more than military capability. It requires projecting intentions. In addition to forward deployed forces, Schelling emphasized the importance of America's political commitment, of its honor, obligation, and diplomatic reputation to the defense of its allies and making extended deterrence credible. Since January 20th, the U.S. government has undermined the political commitment. President Donald Trump has said that the United States would not defend NATO members that fail to meet unspecified spending targets. See, man. Big T, he in there making enemies, because again, he's pretty much saying if they don't meet, this certain requirements, he's not going to help them. So, Trump very well may be the guy, man. That cruel Lord in Isaiah 19, because again, like that's crazy, because you just, I just read, pretty much that, North Atlantic Treaty, there's pretty much supposed to, have the European allies' backs, and the Slovakia. Little excited, I'm tired as well, man. But they're pretty much supposed to have their allies' backs, in the midst of a war, But again, man, Trump, he's pretty much saying F them. If y'all don't meet these specific targets, then we're not gonna help you. So I'm gonna read a little more. It says several administration officials have also expressed territorial ambitions toward NATO members, Canada and Denmark. The United States suspended military and intelligence assistance to Ukraine to pressure Kyiv to make concessions in peace negotiations while doing nothing to force Russia into any reciprocal moves. Ukraine is not a NATO member, and the United States is not treaty bound to defend it. Nonetheless, these developments have spurred NATO allies' reconsideration of their reliance on U.S.-made weapon systems. Trump's admiration for Vladimir Putin, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Elon Musk's support for the far-right alternative for Germany, and administration actions that have undermined the domestic rule of law have also challenged Europeans' belief that the United States still shares basic values and norms with them. And the answer to that is they don't. They don't give a damn. Trump does not give a shit, man. You clearly see what he's doing by putting these tariffs on these different nations. Like he's creating enemies left and right, as if these other nations already didn't hate America. Now they hate America even more, Says none of these moves constitute a formal removal of the U.S. nuclear umbrella from European NATO territory. Collectively, however, they have significantly undermined NATO allies' confidence that the United States is committed to their defense against external attack. Anxieties over U.S. nuclear credibility are manifest in French President Emmanuel Macron's call for a debate on European deterrence. Incoming German Chancellor Friedrich Merz's suggestion that France and Britain could share nuclear weapons with Berlin, and Tusk's discussion of Poland's nuclear options. So again, you see, Germany is looking to the UK and France, man, for help. Because again, they're questioning, will the US have their European allies back if Russia were to attack, and they're pretty much, they're side-eyeing this place, man, because of the decisions that Trump is making, So I'm not going to read this whole thing. I may just read another paragraph and that'll be it, man. It says the extent and heedlessness of the damage to the transatlantic alliance constitutes a fundamental departure from past U.S. policy, even if previous administrations doubted the solidity of extended deterrence, expressed frustration with their European allies in private, and publicly exhorted them to raise defense spending. U.S. officials never cast doubt on America's will to defend its European allies in anything approaching the open manner of recent weeks. Given the speed with which the Trump administration has moved in its first 2 months, Europe has no guarantee that Washington will not take even more significant steps over the next 4 years. This could include refusing to appoint a U.S. general officer as NATO's supreme ally commander Europe, or withdrawing and redeploying U.S. conventional or nuclear forces from European NATO territory. These steps could further damage the credibility of the U.S. nuclear umbrella. This prospect lends urgency to European considerations. It's like a European consideration of alternatives now. So again, man, you pretty much, that's what you have now. You have these different European nations that are looking, for help elsewhere, because the U.S. is pretty much, not, going to have their back, hence the reason why, eventually in the midst of World War III, these America's allies, they're gonna send missiles over here as well. They're going to aid in that destruction, excuse me, Slovakia. Because as we know, or should know, on a small scale, Russia is going to destroy America, with the aid of Russia's allies and even America's allies, But as we know, and again should know, that our Lord Yahweh Shai, along with the angels, are going to destroy this place, Babylon the Great, America, So I'm not going to make this one too long. I'm going to start with the book of Joel, chapter 3 and verse 9. And it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up, beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say I am strong. So right, man, you have these different nations that are still gearing up for war. that are exhausting their resources into, developing, their own nuclear arsenals or upping their arsenal, because again, you do have some of these nations that don't have this technology, but they look to other nations that do. And America is one of those nations that, certain of these European countries look to for aid. But again, man, it's not looking good, because you have them, pretty much these European countries looking towards, their, other European countries, for help if Russia were to attack, So I'm going to get the book of Isaiah, chapter 9 and verse 5. And it says, "For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire." So right, man, this coming Third World War is not going to be a traditional war, Now, granted, again, as I always make mention, you will have ground troops that are going to be going to war with each other, but it's not going to be like how, ancient, wars were fought, hand-to-hand combat. You have men on one side of the battlefield, men on the other side of the battlefield, charging each other, going to war, hand-to-hand, guerrilla warfare, if you will, This war is going to primarily be fought with nuclear missiles, That's the burning and fuel of fire, man. That's going to be what's the instrument that is going to be used to destroy this place, So staying in Isaiah, I'm going to get Isaiah chapter 54 and verse 16. It says, "Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals and the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the waster to destroy." And right, this is describing, the nuclear missiles, man. And the modern day smith being the scientists and physicists that are behind, developing these weapons. Because what does a blacksmith do? He creates weapons of war. And this is what these scientists are doing, man. They're creating and developing weapons of war, weapons of mass destruction, because these missiles that are on the earth today have the capability of literally, destroying the earth. But the entire earth will not be destroyed, Only America will be will be left completely desolate, So I'm going to jump to Revelation chapter 17. And I'm going to start at verse 16. And it says, "And then the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire." So right, those 10 horns being those 10 different, European nations that are going to eventually get angry at America. And, we're starting to see that, because again, Germany is looking to help, Germany is looking to, get help from America. But again, Donald Trump isn't trying to help Germany, so what are they doing? They're looking to, France or the UK, if not both of those nations combined, to help them, in the time of war, But even all of America's allies are eventually going to be angry, and they're going to, again, aid in that destruction. They're going to send their missiles over here as well, man, because this America is the whore, that great whore that is spoken of in the book of Revelation, And in this particular chapter as well, man, Revelation 17, America is that great whore and that harlot, which, I'll real quick grab Revelation 17, verse 4. And it says, "And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth, man. And that's talking about America, because again, man, people, or this nation was, once great, and it technically, still is a great nation, but again, the what's the word I'm looking for? But I want to say, pretty much the quality, and that may not even be the correct word I'm looking for, but pretty much, the the it's not coming to me right now, but pretty much again, you clearly see, this place has been declining, more and more over the years is what I'm trying to say. You're seeing that, so America is not as great as it used to be, because again, this still is a great city, and it is going to be destroyed. That's the main point I wanted to get, so I'm going to get the book of Malachi, chapter 4 and verse 1. And it says, "For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that I shall leave them neither root nor branch." And again, that day that is coming that shall burn as an oven is the day of the Lord, man, aka World War III. Because again, they're synonymous with each other, because again, the day of the Lord, just like it says, in multiple, books, that is going to be a day of darkness and gloominess, man. It's not going to be a good day. It's going to, a lot of death is going to take place in that day, man. So just real quick, coming back to Isaiah, I'm going to go to chapter 13 and verse 4. And it says, "The noise of a great multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustereth the hosts of the battle. They come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even the Lord, and the weapons of it, and the weapons of his indignation, to destroy the whole land." And right, man, ultimately, these nuclear missiles are the Lord's weapons, Now, granted, Esau, Edom's blessing is the sword, but these are really the Lord's weapons, man. The Lord allowed Esau to create these missiles just to take himself out, because those Russians, they're Edomites too. Obviously not all of them, because you do have our people over there as well, because Israel, we're scattered all over the earth, But again, ultimately, this is going to, Esau taking himself out, Russia versus America, because that's what it's going to ultimately boil down to. These two nations going to war with each other, and Russia coming out on top, but they're going to win, but still lose at the same time. Don't get it twisted. Because again, once America goes down, that's it, man. Esau's Edom, he's done. He's being taken out of rulership, So, just going to grab a couple more and that'll be it. So, I'm going to get the book of Revelation, chapter 9 and verse 12. And it says, "One woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more after." So, right, man, one woe is past, meaning World War I, the early 1900s. It took place, I want to say, between 1915 and 1919, if I have those exact years right. I know for sure it ended, in 1919, 1920-ish, I want to say, So Revelation chapter 11 and verse 14, it says, "The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly." And right, the second woe is past, World War II, which took place around 1939 to around 1945, So the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. What is that third woe? World War III, because there's an appointed time when this war is going to take place, So I'm going to end it on this. Coming back to Revelation chapter 9 and verse 15. And it says, "And the four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay the third part of men. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire and of jacinth and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone, and by these three was the third part of men killed, by the fire, by the smoke, and by the brimstone, which issued out of their mouths. And right, man, there's an appointed time, a particular hour, day, month, and year when World War III is going to take place, And it's like it says, to slay the third part of men, because you have three classes of men on the earth. You have the sons of God, which today are the biblical Israelites, all 12 tribes from Judah all the way down to Issachar. You have the sons of men, which are the other heathen nations. And you have the sons of the wicked, which is the nation of Edom, the so-called white man or white people in general. That's primarily who the destruction is for, Esau, the wicked. Now you will have 2/3 of the nation of Israel that are going to get caught up in this destruction, for their wickedness, because they were slated to be destroyed. Whatever heathens, are still over here during that time, they're literally just over here to die, so they don't really matter, But just like it says in verse 18, man, by these things, that fire from those missiles, and, verse 16 to 18, or really verse 16 to 19 is describing the nuclear missiles, and in particular the warheads, man, because that's the part of the missile that does the damage, That's how this place, America, aka Babylon the Great, is going to be destroyed by way of these thermonuclear missiles, man, by fire. Because it's prophesied that this place, Babylon, will be destroyed by fire, So, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from, and I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. Till the next time I say Shalom.